Fiero by me, Jaden Sherman. So these are table contents. We're going to be talking about the Fiero itself, what made it unique, how long the Fiero was in production, what caused the Fiero to be considered a failure, and what can be learned from this failure. So to start off about the Fiero, it came out. It was released in 1984. It was released with three different versions: the base, the sport, and the SE. It was equipped with a 2.5 liter four-cylinder engine, and the nickname for it was the Duke. The Duke was capable of outputting up to 92 horsepower with an average fuel efficiency of 21.49 miles per gallon. So this is pretty good. The fuel efficiency on this, not a big engine whatsoever, especially for a sports car. It's honestly somewhat up there with some of these newer cars produced nowadays. What made the Fiero unique? So the first thing are the body panels. The Fiero was made with plastic panels that were bolted onto a steel frame, and then since the panels were bolted on, they were very easy to switch out and repair if any damage happened to them. Nowadays, if you get a dent in your car, it's really hard to get out. You just kind of have to live with it. But with the Fiero, you just had to take the plastic part off and switch it out. The next thing is customizability. Since the car was made of these plastic panels, people would design different styles for the Fiero and put different panels on to make it like unique to their own to what they wanted. One of the most or some of the most popular body kits that people made were ones for a Ferrari or a Ford GT40. So like the older Ferraris and Ford sports vehicles. And lastly, the rear engine. Unlike a typical car that was being produced for like the standard population, they decided to place the engine in the rear of the car, and this was Pontiac's first time mass producing a car with the rear engine since their 1926 to 1938 coupes that they produced 60 years before the Fiero. What also makes this interesting is that this was the first rear mid-engine car mass-produced by any American manufacturer. So they were the first ones to mass-produce a vehicle for the public in America, which is kind of cool. How long was it in production? So the Fiero was in production from 1984 to 1988, so a 5-year span. In 1984, the production started. Like I stated earlier, they came with 3 different models: the base, the SE, and the sport. Nothing really much there that I'll get into right now for the 84 year. In 1985, they incorporated a 2.8 liter V6 for the Fiero, so a little bit faster. Takes up a little bit more, or gets rid of some more fuel efficiency, but if you were more into faster cars, people would get this one. In 1986, they introduced a fastback style and a GT trim. This was just more of a flashy look, more panels, introduced a rear wing to it. On the 87 model, this Fiero was the first to include a 4.9 liter V8 conversion kit on the GT trim, so people were able to engine swap their Fieros and put a much bigger engine in it that if they wanted an even faster car than the V6 or the V4. And people mainly did this if they're really into like sports cars and even some track racing. And then lastly, the last production year, they didn't really do much with it. They just upgraded it with a better suspension. What caused the Fiero to fail? So the first production year of the Fiero, there were many failures that were not known until it was too late. What the Fiero would do, it would catch on fire while it'd be running because Pontiac and GM decided to put a smaller engine or oil pan in for the engine than what the engine was recommended for. And with this, the engine was like basically scraping for oil. Excuse me. It was scraping for oil every single time it ran because there was a drought of oil in it. You know, there was a way smaller oil pan than what. So that means there was less oil in it. So when the engine was running, if you forgot to like change your oil or if you forgot to like check your oil, there was a chance that since it was running low, it could run too hot and catch other things on fire, like different like types of wiring that was around it. With this, about 1 in every 400 Fieros would catch on fire, which is not a good sign whatsoever for any car manufacturer. Thankfully, this problem was only in the 84 year. And it was fixed like later on down the line. But with this, it completely ruined the reputation of the Fiero. After many people saw this, a lot of people were too skeptical to buy another one. They didn't know what would happen. They didn't want to catch on fire while driving their car. So, you know, definitely hurt the reputation a lot and was the main reason why the Fiero failed. Lastly, what can be learned from this? You know, Pontiac just needed to test their Fiero more. They knew that they put a smaller oil pan in for the engine. And I'm personally assuming that they just didn't test it thoroughly enough to realize that it has a chance of catching on fire if people didn't maintain their car and put oil in it as much as possible. You know, they purposely made the oil pan smaller, like I said earlier, than like the recommended size for the engine. The reason they did this though is because with the recommended size of the oil pan, it would make the engine stick too far out of the rear of the car. So instead of re-engineering how to put the engine in the vehicle itself, they just decided to take a risk and put a smaller oil pan in, and this obviously led to a major catastrophe. Another thing is Pontiac definitely needed to respond to the issue sooner. GM and Pontiac waited until 1987 to put a recall out for the 84 Fiero. And with this, it caused, obviously, many more fires to break out than what could have been stopped if they recalled it sooner. And even though the Fiero is considered a failure, and their first year where they produced the most vehicles and sold the most vehicles, they still were able to sell over 370,000 Fieros within the 5-year time frame, which is still a massive amount of cars that were sold. And just overall, even though it was considered a failure, they definitely still were able to have success in their failure. So this is it. Thank you for listening.